Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in this week. We got another 80K Woodswalker review, and this week we're going to talk about my favorite trail footwear. Stick around because I'm not going to tell you what my favorite is, but I'm going to tell you all about all of the disasters that I've had over the last few years. Should be good. So before we get started talking about my favorite trail footwear, let's talk about my journey to what I've decided is the best for me. Many years ago when I first started hiking, everyone was boots, 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 boots. So I went out and bought a very nice pair of boots, a nice pair of MERRELLs. And well, I had problems with them from probably my first hike. And what's unfortunate is I just attributed that to my feet getting used to being on the trail, from blisters, hot spots, funny calluses. The whole thing was a mess. And what I learned was that maybe you need to tape your toes. So I started taping my toes. That didn't work. Then I started looking into liner socks. So I used a variety of different liner socks. Surprisingly enough, that didn't work either. Turns out my feet don't like being in Gore-TEX boots. It just holds in all that extra sweat from my hot feet. So sure, it keeps the water out, but if I'm generating water inside, what's the point, right? So after the Cranberry Lake 50 hike, which I'll put up in the card right here, you can go check that video out if you're interested, my feet were totally trashed. And I decided at that point it was not worth it to continue abusing myself with those boots. So I went to stage 2. So stage 2 for me had two parts to it, actually. I had gone to the shoe store, tried on a number of different types of trail runners, and I found that I really liked the Salomons in the store. So I bought a pair of Salomon Firecross 4s, I think they were, and brought them home, walked around the house a bunch with them, and it turns out those were Gore-TEX. My feet were sweating like mad in them. So I brought them back to the store, swapped them out for a pair of MERRELL Ventilated trail runners. I think it was the MERRELL Moab Vent 2s. Great shoe. I really thought it was going to be the answer to my feet problems, and it worked pretty well for about a year and a half, in fact. But what ends up happening there was, even though I was in the right size, my foot kept feeling like it was smashed. The sides and the heel, just, they were rubbing funny on the inside of the trail runner. So I'm not entirely sure what the deal was with that. But I decided one weekend, hey, I can't put my feet back into these. I'm just going to wear my regular trail runners, my everyday shoes. And it turns out that was the answer. Drum roll, please. My number one favorite pair of footwear for the trail happens to be my New Balance all-terrain version 410s. I love these things. They are comfortable, they're light, they're breezy, the air goes right through them, so when they get wet, they're not wet for too long. When my feet sweat, there's actually some ventilation. They're a fantastic all-around, all-terrain shoe for my feet. The grip on them is aggressive enough when they're new that I don't have any slipping issues when I'm scrambling or just hanging out. I have no problems with these trail runners. I'm really excited to get onto the Northville Placid Trail and give them a run through there. And I think they're going to be the right shoe for that hike for me. Now in the winter time, you can't just wear trail runners. Well, let me put it this way. I can't just wear trail runners. It's uncomfortable. So when the feet slip and slide, or they get into the snow, or they get wet from the almost frozen water, trail runners is a bad idea for me in the wintertime. So I supplement for my winter hikes a pair of Columbia bug out boots. I purchased these this winter and I didn't really know what to expect, but I got a good deal on them and they were rated very warm. So I said, well, why not? We'll check it out. Turns out these boots are incredible. They kept my feet warm, they kept my feet dry, and I've had an incredible hiking season this winter, and I think it's partially to do with my footwear choice. So while I really like the trail runners for 3-season hiking, my bug out boots are for the winter hiking. Highly recommend checking those out as well. Sure, I know everyone's feet are different, so what works for me is not going to work for you necessarily. How do you fix that? How do you deal with that situation? I don't know the answer. Maybe you can consider looking for previously loved footwear. You can go online for gear trade sites, or maybe your local garage sales. Something that might be interesting to you that you can get on the cheap and not be totally sad if it doesn't work out. Hiking boots and trail runners, they can be a rather expensive investment, especially if you find out it doesn't work for you. I learned that with my MERRELL boots the first time. I never imagined spending that much money on a pair of boots. It's kind of ridiculous, and looking back on it, I wish I could go back and kick myself in the butt. Say, don't do it, but it's okay. Lessons learned, mistakes were made, and we're moving forward. Nothing's wrong with that. It's good. It's part of growth. So if you can, try and get a hold of whatever you're looking at and test it out. I really highly suggest, if you go to a footwear store and you're trying on something that you're going to use for hiking up and down mountains, if they have the ramp, stay on that. Go up and down it 1,000 times. Jack your foot into the front of the toe box if you can. Just really kind of in the store, give them the best test you can. That's really the best piece of advice I can give you. It's also important to know how your feet work. If you have warm feet, maybe you don't want to be in a pair of waterproof boots or trail runners. You may find that causes more problems than it's worth. So these are very important things to know. Thanks for tuning in this week. Like I said, everyone's footwear choice is going to be different. So if you have a preferred footwear choice, or you have a journey similar to mine, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you're interested, hit that subscribe button. I've got a whole bunch of incredible adventures lined up for the next rest of the year, and I promise you're not going to want to miss it. But until then, try and get outside and do something awesome every single day, and we'll see you next week. I should note that even though I've spent a lot of money on footwear, it's not a complete loss for us, because my son is going to be 14 and he's almost filling up my shoes, so he uses them on shorter hikes and it seems to work really well for him. So I guess that's a win. Teenagers, that's scary. Thanks a lot for watching.